All right, future archaeologists, we are going to get started with a cool tutorial on how to add a mouse motion listener and then use that to draw as if we are using something like Microsoft Paint. So to start this, I have my Paint main, so it's just a J-frame. I set it 600 by 400, X close, and then I've set it visible. So this is pretty basic. You've seen all of this before. So I'm going to start a new class, and I am going to call this Paint with M, so Paint with Mouse, and then I will click OK. And this is where I'm going to be writing the majority of my code. So let's get into cleaning all of this up. I am actually going to keep my Paint with main constructor, and I'm going to keep that right there. Constructor, method, all those will be in there. We are going to get rid of this as well, and it just bothers me. I gotta clean this up just a little bit, All right, so let's take a look first at what we want to import into this. So we are going to import our java.awt, and we're going to import that whole library. We are going to import our java.awt.event, so this will keep track of our mouse listener. And then we are going to import our java.swing, javax.swing. And we're going to import the entirety of that as well. And that is going to be it. Those are all the ones that we really need. So the first thing that we want to do is we need to extend our J component, because that is going to be the location in which we are drawing. So we're going to extend our J component, and then because we want to implement our mouse moving around, we are actually going to choose our we're going to implement mouse motion listener. So there is also mouse listener that keeps track of whether or not you clicked, released, pressed. There's a lot of other ones within the mouse listener, but right now we're just going to focus on mouse motion listener. So that will have two different preset overrides, which are our mouse dragged, and that's the one that we're going to be used, and then the other one is mouse moved, but we're not going to use move. Drag essentially means that you have clicked on it and you are moving it. So it's click and drag. It infers the click in there. All right, so inside of this, let's create those. Our first one is going to be our public void and our mouse dragged. This is where we're going to have the majority of our code, and we are going to call this mouse, or it takes an input of mouse event E. We'll close that up, and now we need one more, which is going to be our public void mouse moved, and we can change that to mouse event E. And close that up. Cool. So we have both of ours. We're actually going to keep this one as an empty. We don't need it, so it's going to be empty. And now we can really get into this. So inside of here, we want to add our mouse listener, saying that we should that we should be listening to this program. So we're going to add our mouse motion listener, and right here we're going to put this so we connect our mouse listener over here. And then inside, we're actually not going to have our own paint component. Inside of here, we are going to do that paint component. So what we need to do first is cast our graphics. So we are going to take our graphics, G is equal to get graphics. So we are getting our program from up here, and now this mouse movement is where we want to have this drawn, because otherwise this mouse event is going to check if it was dragged, then once it was dragged, it would go back to where the movement was, and then we're just getting a block right where we left it, right at the end of the drag, but we want the entirety of the drag. So while it is being dragged, we want to draw. So inside of here, we are going to have our G.fill rectangle. We are just using G, we are not using the 2D graphics. You could, it doesn't matter. Inside of here, we have our X, our Y, and then I'm going to set this for a small little 1010 square. So right now we don't know what X and Y is equal to. So we want to set those as variables that we can follow. Inside of our mouse listener, we have variables like that. We have X, and this is event.getX. So this is a little method inside of that. And then we're also going to have Y is equal to e.getY. And we can close that up as well. So our mouse is always giving coordinates. It's always given an X, it's always given a Y. This is going to track that and get our X and Y. So right now we're getting these that they are not public. So we want to create public variables outside of this. So inside of here, we're going to say that integer X, and we want this to start at a spot outside of our range, is equal to -10. If we have it within our window, we're going to get one square to start because it's automatically going to read this line first and say, oh, gfill rec at 10, 10 and at a size 10, 10. It's going to do that immediately. So we want to do this outside of our window. No one will see it. It's a nice little workaround. So we've got integer X and integer Y is equal to -10. And there we go. That should do it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add this over to my paint main, but before I do that, let's go over this. So I have all these imports, very simple. Public class paint with mouse extends JComponent. JComponent is where we are drawing this. It implements our MouseMotionListener. So we start variables at -10 and -y, or -10 and -10, X and Y outside of our drawing space. So we initially draw a square outside of there. We added our motion listener to our program. And then inside of here, we extended our graphics. So kind of similar to this, but within just one method so that we have our graphics in here. That allows us to use our graphic command, our gfill rectangle. And we're going to plug in our X and Y as these events. So what is happening in our mouse. We don't want our mouse moved because that would draw every single time that we moved, and that's not really precise drawing. So let's add this over to our paint main. So I am going to say F, which is the name of my frame. I am going to, before that, I should probably add over the actual file. So we're going to say paint with mouse, WM. I am going to call this PW is equal to new paint with mouse, and we'll close that up, and then we'll do f.add, and we're going to add that program to our JFrame. And when we compile all of that, I can go over to my paint main, run my main, I get my window over here, and I can draw. I can say hi, or hello. Notice that it is actually just drawing these shapes repeatedly, and if I move really fast, we get spaces in between, but that is a-okay. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it kind of led some new experiences to you. So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this. I will talk to you later. Bye.